How many of you have either heard from other people you work with, or have even caught yourself saying, "I don't have time for this," as your boss asks you to do yet another thing during your workday, because your work is already filled with so much, and the thought of fitting another thing results in more fear of just falling behind with the work you already have? Welcome to the Work Sucks But I Like It podcast. My name is Tony Tenaglier, and I want to explore what my brother calls people that are hyperproductive. How in a given day people can get a lot done without the saying, "I don't have time for this." I want to explore some of the techniques and methods out there to use to be super efficient with your time and manage the long to-do list to meet the expectations of all those involved. With these techniques, I have been able to be super efficient in my work days to get a lot done. Place the big rocks first in your day. There was a YouTube video I did last year on my Mountain Minutes channel where I talked about my crazy calendar I use every day. I really just wanted to share sort of the method and the strategy, because I've heard sometimes people will say, "Tony, how are you so hyper productive?" And the way I look at it is I plant these big rocks first in my day. Now, some of you have actually seen my calendar or even the YouTube video. It has lots of colors and at first looks like there's no time for anything, and blocks out all the time. It even blocks where I'm taking naps and breaks, or what I call active recovery. Now, at first, this sounds crazy, I know. But there is science and engineering behind it that I will share with you throughout this episode. Because people want their day to flow, if you will, in what they do. The calendar and how I manage my time is derived from the elements of flow. Remember, flow has 3 things required to get you flowing: goals, immediate feedback, and challenge to skill ratio balanced. So the calendar provides the goals for your day. The calendar and how you schedule it can even provide you feedback as to what can get done, while allowing you to hone your skills and recognize challenges to be able to draw upon the right resources to get the task done. The statement, "I don't have time for this," I really look at the day as, well, let's make time. And how do we do that? But I want to make something clear. Just because someone tells me to do something doesn't always mean it's going to get done. But the way you structure your day and how you fill it is critical. And the question you need to ask yourself is, what big rocks are you placing first in your day? Now, obviously, I can't show you my calendar on a podcast, so I encourage you to check out the video on the Mountain Minutes YouTube channel, how I manage my time. For now, though, I will try and illustrate how I set up my day. I view my day as simply like a game. I'm not a professional athlete, but rather an industrial athlete, playing the game of go to work each day and playing and performing on the stage of manufacturing for the aerospace industry. The game is simple, like most games. The game of soccer has lines for the field to play on, goals to score the soccer ball into, and 2 halves for the set amount of time to get the work done. Move the soccer ball against your opponent into the goal. So the calendar is set up to where I have my goal-directed activities. From there it indicates the start and stop of each activity. For example, from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. I have a slot Monday through Friday for my time spent working. After that I have what is called an active recovery event. This is something like yoga or rock climbing. This calendar, by the way, is engineered with the concepts of flow. Flow has a cycle, as Stephen Kotler indicates, of where there are 4 stages. 2 of the stages are a form of rest. And surprisingly, to get further in the things you want to do, you need to be strategic with when you take rests. Because flow isn't just about go, 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 right? Stephen Kotler in his book, The Rise of Superman, indicates these 4 stages. What are they? The first is the struggle phase, in which we grapple with what to do when confronted with the challenge. Then there is the release stage, in which we allow for this period of time to let the problem and potential solution sit in our minds. Then we immerse ourselves into the challenge or activity and achieve a flow state. Because that is taxing on the resources in the mind, the brain literally needs time to recover. So sleeping at night is my full recovery, if you will, for mind and body. But throughout the day, I have placed a nap time at lunch. I know it sounds ridiculous, but 10 minutes, all I need, and either yoga or some sort of run, rock climbing after work for active recovery. There are even moments throughout the day where I just stare at a wall or a tree. Now, before you think I'm all crazy and do nothing but work, I do also have sections of time when I go hang out with my friends. Social time at those events, even family. And when my friends want to go catch up somewhere, I place that as an important event, that big rock, into my calendar. So why do I go to these extremes and provide so much detail? Because today we suffer from the paradox of having too many choices. We think there is freedom in the choices, which there are, but we become frozen in our actions and thoughts of what to do. And as a result, Nothing gets done. Mapping out my day like this lets me hone right into what I need to get done. Why? Because I'm not stuck in a holding pattern of what do I do? Do I do this or do I need to focus on that? I've already done the planning. If I'm going to spend time with my family, I'm not going to be thinking about work. If I'm going to be rock climbing, I'm not thinking about writing the next book. If I'm going to be at work, I'm not going to be thinking about vacation or whatever else, right? The point of the calendar is to get you to focus. But you might ask, well, doesn't things change? Absolutely. I work in the world of manufacturing and it changes every day. That's also life, right? I'm not saying we can predict everything in life, but we can go in with a strategy to make the most of it. So each week and even the night before, I take the time to map out my days on the calendar. So when I sleep, my brain is already tuning into the events of the next day, working, doing yoga, and maybe hanging out with friends after. It's like a pathway to navigate my day so I can get the things done that I want to get done. Now, the goal setting is the most important. Years ago, I was part of a network marketing group, and the one thing I remember most was that it took from a study what most people can manage effectively. It was around 2 things to be successful. Thus, we had the goal of having 2 people underneath us in the business model. So for each activity in my calendar, I set up 2 things for the most part as my top goals for the day, or at least try and shoot for it. And some days I'll admit I try and cram too much in. Some days I don't even get any of them done. So let's take an example. I wake up and do my morning routine, which I have set. I minimize the decisions I need to get dressed with my closet by simply taking the next shirt ready to go. Again, we're trying to eliminate the paradox of choice, having it all set to go. Pants are already hung up. I make my morning matcha, read my book, and by 6:35 I'm out the door heading to work. On my calendar this shows as work from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. There I check my emails while eating my morning breakfast, greeting the team as they come into my office, and mapping out the day. I write out 2 to 5 things I need to get done during work. Things maybe like Oven 3 report, inspection training, internal audit of finishing, and so on. These are the things I focus on throughout the workday. Those are the big rocks. And when I eventually complete them, I check them off, giving myself a favorable dopamine hit in my brain of a job well done. This reinforces the behavior of competing tasks I want to get done. But my day also balances my friends, my relationship with my girlfriend, my coursework for my PhD program, teaching yoga at nights, rock climbing, running, and finishing another book that I'm writing. But in all these activities, my calendar has placed all of these things with 2 to 5 goals in each. Why? Because that allows me to be fully present and engaged in each activity. Now, of course, with the goals, it's applicable, of course, right? With social time, I'm not saying there's a goal of, set 2 to 5 things. Really, the goal is to just be mindful. One of them could be get off your phone. And why do I do all this? Because that allows me to be fully present and engaged in each activity. Another problem I see today with people is that they get overwhelmed thinking about being here or being there, and they forget to be present with where they're at and the task at hand. They focus on vacation at work, but even on vacation, we'll think about the emails to check when they get back. When I know I'm rock climbing, I've got the simple goal of rock climbing. But the active recovery and recovery portions of the day are also key to scheduling these things. My nap time at lunch. So I'll even use yoga as a form of active recovery to relax before I do my homework that night or spend time on date night before we go out to a restaurant. The fear then of not being able to get something done gets tossed out the door when I surrender to my calendar and how I laid out my day. I also write out my goals for the year. I don't wait until New Year's Eve. I just create it and track it. But this calendar has taken years to perfect, and it sounds like a lot of work. But don't worry. The biggest thing to take from all this is start thinking about your biggest rocks to place in your day. The most important things that you have to get done. Maybe it's raising a family. Maybe it's working on a PhD. Maybe it's working on your epic toy collection or spending time with the loved one. But of course, my calendar is still a work in progress, right? But before you get going on placing the big rocks, one thing I had to realize about myself was that you have to determine if you're a morning person or an evening person. Because from the list of the top projects you have in your life, can you schedule them accordingly into the morning or evening depending on what you are? That's because you're operating at your best. I'm a morning person and like to tackle my harder to-dos in the morning. I also love to read and take notes for my next book or podcast episode in the morning. If you're a nighttime person, maybe you just do your work at night. Now some of you might be wondering, well, work gets in the way. I'm a morning person, I don't have time to do this, and I have to go to this job. Well, I hate to say it, work is inevitable. And that's what we're talking about on the show, right? Work sucking, but the opportunity to thrive because it is a challenge. We have to do some work in our lives, no doubt about it. Work to put food in your mouth, work to move your arms and feet to take a shower or use the bathroom. Work from a physics standpoint is force times displacement. If you think of work in terms of that, then anything you do is going to be work, right? If there's a force, even if it's gravity, and it's making you move, and you're fighting gravity, and the arm moves, everything is work at that point. So we have to accept the fact that we have to do work. Because I hate to say, there isn't one magical answer or formula out there to solve this sort of work-life balance equation. But this podcast is really trying to drive at the tools to help you optimize your day and your life. But I really think that it starts with the calendar, and going to really strongly recommend just one, right? I've noticed in the past that sometimes I'll have a list of things here and a list of things there, and I had like 3 calendars. Make it one. I use Google, whatever one you want to use, Outlook. Stick to one, right? Eliminate all the other choices. Just stay with one. Determine your best operating times during the day. Are you awake after your coffee? Are you good to go after a Netflix episode at night? Then determine your top projects and prioritize them in your calendar. Put slots in there so you can focus on those slots, even if it's just spend time with family, or take a walk, or take the dog out, or whatever. Determine in those activities the top 2 to 5 things to achieve, if it makes sense. I guess for the dog walking, just make sure you pick up the crap so the neighbors don't hate you. Now, we're trying to create a habit, and I use the same formula for everything I do. I've gotten compliments and remarks for how efficient and present I am with doing tasks, my brother labeling me as hyperproductive. But really, it's just I focus on these 2 to 5 things and make slots of time in my day to just focus on them. It's not being busy that counts. It's about being fully engaged. I think a common misperception in the workplace today is that people who appear to be busy working these long hours are considered hardworking. It might look something like this, as it can come in very subtle ways. An assignment is, say, given to an employee, and the infamous line comes out, "I don't have time for this." Then we watch this employee throughout the day. They start out with great vigor on the assignment, keyboard smashing away to type it out. There might even be some sounds of and wow, and for emphasis on the title being typed out. And maybe there's even a little cheers if they had fans cheering them along. Now, nothing is wrong with any of this, but there's a subtle distinction that I think employees don't make right. Appearing busy and doing work isn't the same as doing work. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to say it again. Appearing busy is not the same as doing work. Why? Appearing busy is when the work that you are doing is a distraction to the work you need to do. If cleaning the desk actually helps you write a better report, then do it quickly, and don't drag on which color highlighter you need on the left or right side of your desk or where your ruler goes. Don't gossip with your neighbor about doing it either, or take a selfie next to it and post it on Instagram. Don't make 5 trips to the dumpster. Just get it done. Appearing busy is also not showing those around you that you're frantically working. That's not sustainable. I've worked in manufacturing for nearly 15 years, and the most effective processes are the most boring. They appear to be so fluid as if it should have been that way all along. Not employees shouting and running around all crazy to get stuff done and saying I have no time. That's just chaos. So when people say they don't have time, you can start to see why when you zoom in. They expend so much of their energy they get tired before they actually do the work needed. Have you ever had someone snap at you when you walked up to them? Now, I can't prove this, but I don't always have the chance to see what is on their computer screen by the time I walk up. But you know that feeling sometimes when you know they weren't working. But I have tried to give this some thought, right? And believe me, I am caught on looking on ESPN or whatever thing I want to buy at REI next to once in a while, just for little breaks here and there. But I've given a little more thoughts of why someone would snap, right? For someone to react that way, what was the condition they were in? They might be hiding something as they were watching a YouTube video or on a website that wasn't work-related. It's the simple law of cause and effect. They didn't want to get caught, and it's easy when you have your hand caught in the cookie jar, you should be looking yonder. Now, appearing busy can also show up when the emails are sent before or after hours of the set work time. This is my favorite, right? Work is, usually defined as 9 to 5. And I always love to see the emails that come in before the start of the shift or after the shift, even for salary, right? And it appears that they're putting in long days' work. But I'm going to put that out there. They aren't. And I hate to say that, and I don't mean to offend some of you that do stay late, but hear me through. Because as a manager, my first question is this. I'm going to ask you, if you were reporting to me, why are you sending an email before the shift starts or after? Am I not giving you the right resources to get your job done during the day? And that's on me, right? I need to step up now and give you the resources to allow you to do the job that we're paying you to do within the 40-hour week. Now, if they do have what they need, my follow-up question is how much appearing busy are they actually doing? It's a sort of growing archetype in the workplace culture today. This person trying to appear busy with the sense of urgency that at the end of the day has gotten them nowhere. This person will be the one spotted chatting for hours with the operators on the floor, not only appearing busy and wasting their own time, but now someone else who's on the clock. But the manager who supports these after-hour requests and emails is really only setting the culture up to fail. The question of why isn't this getting done during the workday must be made. And why is that, right? Imagine an athlete who wanted to score the goal after the 90 minutes in a soccer match and said, I didn't have time, I needed another 20 minutes. Well, that's not how it works in sports, and it shouldn't work that way in the manufacturing industry either. It clearly wouldn't count if the player went back and put the ball into the net after everyone left the stadium. So why are workplace cultures allowing their employees to send emails out after everyone's gone from the workplace that day? Now, I work in manufacturing and understand that so many parts must be produced around the clock. I get it, right? But again, this comes down to upper management allocating the right resources. If that is the case of needing more resources, then the company needs either more equipment or employees or more shifts. Now, of course, you can only do 3 shifts if you're doing 8 hours, right? And before you take offense to the long hours you put in and thinking that it's wrong to do so and Tony's calling you out, you have to honestly ask yourself, the long hours, were they needed? How much time did you actually spend working? And I guess really what I'm saying in all of this is if you do catch yourself, spending time, after or before hours, talk to your boss, talk to your manager, understand where the resources are coming from. Can that person help you be more effective in your job? It's a team effort at any place. And really the punchline in all of this is we hear I don't have this time, but really, as you can see, it's coming down to managing the time effectively. That's what we need to strive towards. And sometimes we need to ask those above us to help us prioritize, right? Which projects we need to work on. Can this report wait until Friday? Can I get this audit done next Tuesday so I can focus on the customer visit that's coming in tomorrow, right? Those are the kind of conversations we need to start having with our team to get rid of this, I don't have time for this crap. And sometimes, we have to start with ourselves. We can't always change a workplace culture and the assumptions they make of their employees. I've worked at companies that expect the team to come in for long hours during the day and sacrifice their weekends. I had one company, I had a meeting at 7 o'clock, I kid you not, on a weekday to go over something, and we didn't get out till 8 o'clock. It was crazy. And I had to be back in, I want to say it was like 6 a.m. in the morning the next day. So, of course, all this would be ideal, right? If we could just come into work and print our list of things to do from the calendar and just get right into it. No distractions, no one's coming to your desk or calling you. But that sort of thinking is like the equivalent of a soccer player wanting no opponent. For the soccer player to freely dribble the ball up the field and just kick it in the net, right? Don't get in my way, other player. Really what we're talking about now is we have to change our strategy. We know there's crap that's going to come in. I know I have to get this report done, but man, I've got operations down and we have scrap parts and maintenance is saying stuff and blah, 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 blah. I'll admit on some days, though, when I do plan to get my 2 to 5 things done, I was lucky to get 1. Sometimes I get none. But you have to remember that it was just the battle being lost, right? It's not the war. So the next day, I realign my items and truly determine what takes more priority. Can that report wait? Like I said, does the customer really need this? They're game time decisions that will always have to be made. But to me, I look at it like building a puzzle. You get lost in the pieces sometimes of all the things you need to do and fit into your day. There's only so much time to do it. I find most people, though, are trying to fit these pieces into a puzzle that they're working on. It really isn't even what the company wants or vice versa. And we're trying to jam these pieces that don't fit because upper management sees a different picture. but you need to constantly look at where the pieces are fitting in. And again, this is a two-way conversation with you and the people you work with. Now sure, the edge and corner pieces are the easiest to fit in your day. I look into the box, I find all the straight edges, I line them up, and I have the border for the puzzle. So just like in the day, it's easy to say that the day starts at 9 and it ends at 5. So now the work becomes, how do I move these puzzle pieces into the picture of the day? But sometimes the piece isn't ready to fit. Sometimes you have to hold this piece in your hand as you scan over the puzzle throughout your day, as other things and pieces are coming your way. But what helps in puzzle building is the front box, the goal. What should it look like? There are many times when I pick up a puzzle piece and wonder, where the heck does this thing go? But I look and examine this piece carefully. The shape, the colors, the gradients, and looking at the picture in the box, you can sometimes find these same features and place the puzzle piece, if not in the exact location, but in the general area. And that is how projects go sometimes. Even though we want to finish the report, well, maybe we just had to collect the data and put it on our desk over here in a little pile, and then a little later we get back to it and then all the pieces align and we get the report out. And we need to place these pieces in the general area so that when the time is right, when all the pieces are near one another, we can start assembling that report. But people get overwhelmed by this. You can't see the forest for the trees. And so an employee might get all frantic that this puzzle piece doesn't fit. There's no time to place it. I don't have time for this. There's so many other pieces that need to go together first. And again, that's where we need these conversations with you and the people you work with. And sometimes there's just a lot of pieces to juggle. There's a lot of things going on. Jobs are more complex than ever today. And as a quality manager in the aerospace manufacturing industry, I'm constantly trying to fit a lot of things together as well in my day, trying to balance the production needs, customer requirements, audits, customer returns, employee needs, and so on. But I come back to the bigger picture. What does the company want at the end of the day? What are the values they're built around? What are the goals they're striving towards? What are the requirements that we have to meet? Kind of like the rules in soccer. I can't pick up the ball with my hands in the middle of the field, but when it goes out of bounds, I can throw it in with my hands. So when I map out, say, internal auditing or the Oven 3 report in my calendar, I don't always get a chance to finish it, like we've been talking, right? We have to move the puzzle pieces and get to it later, but we start piling all the information so it's ready to go. Even when people do say that, that they've made the pieces, they got these reports, but I know there is still this thought, even if we've placed the calendar out and we've got all the corner pieces and the edges there, and we've got the piles of things ready to go, we're still going to hear it, right? I don't have time. And to be honest with you, when we get to this point, this is what they're really saying. And I've said this before, I've used it in the past to remind me, kind of go on these tangents and things, that really there's no such thing as an excuse to get something done. It's only a difference in priority. You might hear, I don't have time for this, but what you might hear down the hall is them chatting away with another employee for 15 minutes. They have prioritized talking to another employee than doing their work. Or I don't have time for this is what you might see, but what you might see is that they wanted to look at their phone for the next 30 minutes instead of doing the report. Again, the priority is placed on anything but the required task at hand. And why? Because sometimes it's hard to do certain things, right? I've even caught myself, right? Believe me, I'm no saint in all of this either. I get on my phone, or some of you know that I love Bloon Tower Defense, this game that I've been playing for years, and that's kind of my, go-to distractor as well. But I know that, right? I've prioritized playing this game, at the cost of doing some other work that I could have been doing. It takes a great deal of motivation, right? Sometimes to get the willpower to do something. It's not easy to wake up in the morning. When I had to run 20 miles, for getting ready for marathons, yeah, it really sucked waking up in the morning. I did not want to be out there at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning running 20 miles in the rain. It's not easy to raise a child when they're crying and upset, for you parents out there. It's not easy to work on a report when there are other smaller tasks that could get done. We tend to default to the path of least resistance by switching to, I don't have time to do this. But I just want you to recognize in yourself that when you say this, or when you hear this, that really it's just shifting the priorities of what you're doing in that given moment. The differences of priority are often overlooked, and this is what causes the most tension in a workday. Imagine back to our sports analogy of the football team having different priorities. The linebacker wanting to run a different play than the rest of the team, the wide receiver is taking a different slant, And so if the team players where you work at aren't aligned by the manager or supervisor, you're going to hear me say that it's really the managers that really need to step up today, and the supervisors, myself included, right? Keep learning, growing, and encouraging the team. It isn't always the fault of the employees saying they have no time. It's really, I'm going to put it back on the managers. They need to set the priorities, but to do so in such a manner as to get the team all working towards a goal. So this leads to setting goals. So if there's one topic that is the most important and most repeated, it's the topic of goals. It's an area I find that people either strongly know what they want, or they just go along with what they think they should be doing, which really translates into not knowing what they need to be doing, and that's another form of appearing to be busy. And when people don't understand the goal, they try and mimic the motions, but faking it until you make it's not going to work here, right? Because you have no idea what you're doing. And it might last for a day or two, but in the long run, it's not effective work. So let's talk about goals within the context of having time to do things. And here are some examples of good goals in the workday. Maybe it's finish the report for customer A, or perform the internal audit for process X, prepare and present for a meeting at 2 p.m. Goals are simple and attainable. Now, they shouldn't be, clean desk for an hour, send email late at night, right? Those aren't goals. That's just appearing to be busy. I think in general, people have the sense of what setting good goals are. Whether your boss tells you to do this or a customer says to do that, the problem most people will encounter, though, is the discipline required to follow through on the action required to attain the goal. The excuses and appearing busy are all clouding their better judgments of what work actually needs to get done. So here are the things that I do to help me stay focused. So number one, we've been talking about it. Write out that list of 2 to 5 items. Have it in front of you. Pick one calendar, just go. Number two, when you're fatigued, it's a matter of stimuli that needs to be managed. People are going to pull out their phone when they get bored, and don't do that, right? Let me repeat, do not do that. To stay focused, put the phone away. The phone is the worst distraction you can have today. It's, been equated to the modern day cigarette at the workplace. It's addicting. Number three, simple, right? Take a walk, change the stimuli. Helps in 2 ways. Get you out of the office, and you also get to, talk with the team out there on the floor. And the last one, really the most important today, ask for help. In America especially, right, we're so individualistic. We want to do things our way. We got to get the credit, we got to do this and that, plant our flags down, right? And, when you start asking for help, that's when you really build a team. And to summarize today, the skill is to look at your calendar. If you don't have one, create one now. Go into Google, go into Outlook, whatever, right? Start making those lists and start engineering it for success. And also, when you start hearing, I don't have time, whether you're saying it or other people are saying it, think that, okay, what's the priority? There's really no such thing as an excuse, right? It's a difference in priority. And remember, there's a subtle distinction of being busy and actually doing work. And really the message at the end of the day, make time for the things that need to get done, and before you know it, they will. Hey, thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope you've been enjoying the content. If there's topics or you want to get on the show, reach out to me at tony@philosophicalengineering.com. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button for more content coming your way. Thank you so much.